You have to put these kinds of authoritarian measures so that you will civilize the population. Then when the population is sufficiently civilized, you've basically beaten religion out of them, then you can give them freedom of speech and freedom of association, etc. When it comes to foreign influence, there's a lot of foreign influence in Tajikistan. One is the United States. So it's interesting. April, $18 million comes from the US to Tajikistan, and then in June, they ban hijab.
The Central Asian nation of Tajikistan officially prohibited the wearing of hijabs and other alien garments this week, as the country's parliament passed a new bill regulating Islamic clothing and Eid celebrations. The bill, approved by the upper house of parliament on June 19th, comes after years of an unofficial clampdown on the hijab in the Muslim-majority country. Under the new law, individuals wearing hijabs or other banned religious clothing could face hefty fines of up to $700. Companies allowing employees to wear prohibited garments risk penalties of $3,500. Government officials and religious leaders face even steeper fines of $4,800 to $5,100 if found in violation. The bill also restricts children's participation in festivities and gift-giving traditions associated with the Islamic holidays of Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. Government officials stated these measures aim to ensure proper education and safety of children during the holidays.
No part of the world has been subject to harsher measures against Islam than in Central Asia, especially over the past 200 years. And these harsh measures have been justified on the basis of two ideologies. One of those ideologies is liberalism, and the other ideology is communism. Liberalism and communism are related ideologies. In fact, the way that I categorize communism, I categorize it as a sub-ideology of liberalism. Why? Liberalism as an ideology tries to maximize individual freedom and equality. That's the central aim of liberalism, maximizing individual freedom and equality. Communism also wants to maximize freedom and equality, and it just has a certain prescription for how to do that. Therefore, communism is a sub-ideology of liberalism. Socialism is a sub-ideology of liberalism. Feminism is a sub-ideology of liberalism, etc. Because they're all based on how do we maximize individual freedom and equality. So, in the late 19th century, the Russian Empire repressed Islamic belief and practice in Central Asia. This was done in the name of liberalism. So, the 19th century, and prior to that, Russia had become liberalized. They had adopted liberalism as the law of the land, basically, and then the Russian Empire had conquered Central Asia and the Muslims in those regions, and they imposed this liberal ideology.
Tajikistan has seen an influx of Islamic clothing from the Middle East in recent years, which authorities view as linked to extremism and a threat to the country's cultural identity. In a March address, President Emomali Rahmon referred to the hijab as foreign clothing. Ironically, they have no problem with foreign clothing coming from the West. Since 2007, the hijab has been banned for students, with the prohibition later extending to all public institutions. Authorities have also informally discouraged bushy beards in men, with reports of police forcibly shaving thousands of beards over the past decade. Human rights organizations have criticized Tajikistan's hijab ban as a violation of religious freedom. With Muslims comprising over 98% of the population, the law is likely to face significant opposition within Tajik society as it goes into effect. Tajikistan, a former Soviet republic with a population of about 8 million, is a predominantly Muslim nation. Emomali Rahmon, himself a Muslim by upbringing, is secular and has tried to curtail religious freedoms by linking religiosity to extremism. Tajik is the official language of the country and is a dialect originating from Farsi and Dari, which comes from Iran and Afghanistan. The Tajiks are the most prominent indigenous non-Turkic population in Central Asia. They are of Persian ethnic descent, although their exact origin is subject to debate. It's clear that historically they are a people who mixed with other cultures to become what they are today. From their religion, language, ethnicity, culture and food, they have always had influence from other countries and cultures. Some of the famous Islamic scholars were from either modern or historical East Iranian regions lying in Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan, and therefore can arguably be viewed as Tajiks. They include Abu Hanifa, Imam Bukhari, Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud, Nasir Khusro, and many others. So why is there this attack on Islamic practices? If the population is 98% Muslim, they should respect the people and allow the population to follow the Islamic rules set by Allah. So it has to be asked, who or what is influencing the elite of the nation to enforce such rules onto their people?
So you restrict freedom of religion, you restrict speech, you restrict freedom of association. Only after the influence of religion has been broken is it possible to remove these structures. So you have people like John Stuart Mill on Liberty, his famous book, which he lays out these liberal principles. He says that, well, when it comes to savage lands or lands that are full of barbarians, you will impose a liberal order through force, and you have to restrict speech, you have to restrict freedom to associate, you have to put these kinds of authoritarian measures so that you will civilize the population. Then when the population is sufficiently civilized, you've basically beaten religion out of them, then you can give them freedom of speech and freedom of association, etc. Imagine the Taliban in Afghanistan said that, yeah, we'll give people freedom of religion, but we just have to make sure that we control all the schools and we educate all the children in hardcore Sharia. We influence them. We make sure all the children are memorizing Quran and Hadith. And once they fully become civilized, where they're practicing Muslims who have memorized the Quran and have long beards and the women are completely covered, once they've reached that level of enlightenment, of civilization, then they can say whatever they want. And then they can associate with whoever they want. Obviously, liberals would say that's not freedom. That's the opposite of freedom. You've indoctrinated them. You've imposed this religion onto them. Well, this is exactly what John Stuart Mill advocates unironically. He unironically says that we have to civilize them, basically indoctrinate the population into liberalism. Then when they're sufficiently secularized and liberalized, then they can say whatever they want. Then they can do it. Once we've fully entrenched our ideology into the fabric of society, then you can say and do whatever you want. This is transparent hypocrisy. The period of liberal authoritarianism began in the 18th century under Russian rulers like Peter the Great and Catherine the Great, tightly restricted freedom of speech, religion, and association for all their subjects, including the Orthodox Christian majority as well as a large Muslim minority. So they're not only repressing Muslims, they're also repressing Christians. That's part of the liberal program. It's an attack on all traditional religions, not just Islam. When it comes to foreign influence, there's a lot of foreign influence in Tajikistan. One is the United States. The U.S. since 1991, has been giving Tajikistan aid to bolster their education, health, food security, and economic connectivity. So we're talking about millions of dollars given to Tajikistan. And when you go to U.S. aid, you go to their website, look at what you see. Little girls at school, not wearing hijab, like wearing colorful clothes. This is on the U.S. aid website. And what's interesting, there's an $18 million initiative to boost economic growth in Tajikistan that was announced this past April. So it's interesting. April, $18 million comes from the US to Tajikistan, and then in June, they ban hijab. Are these things related? Allahu Alam. but it's like a play ball type of thing. Like, okay, the US is very concerned about the rise of Islamism, the rise of Islamic or pan-Islamism, like this kind of connection between Muslims across the globe into this overall global Islamic network. The US is very concerned about this, especially when you have Iran, when you have Afghanistan. You're worried about Pakistan as well. Nuclear armed Pakistan, like they're very concerned about clamping down on Islamic influence. So even within Tajikistan, like how can you strike a blow against Islam? Maybe there's a connection there with the new hijab ban. Allahu a'lam.